morning. It's Joe Romero, your Subaru Added Security and Equity Shield product partner for the Portland and Denver zones. Normally you see me doing these things on my own, but today I'm joined by my good friend and your product partner from the Los Angeles and San Francisco zones, David Pipkins. David, thanks for joining us today.
My pleasure. I'm looking forward to it, Joe, and hello, Denver and PDX. Good to see you guys again.
It's been a long time since we've been covering both these territories. You know, you guys may not all know, but I had the entire Western region when we started, and David had the entire Western region when I took a sabbatical to work for the Hyundai account. So we've talked about doing this together for a while. I'm glad we're getting a chance to do this, and I hope that we can do more of these in the future.
Yeah, definitely. I see that it's needed, and I'm anxious to see the response from this. People out there viewing it, we'd love to hear your feedback on it.
So one of the things that we talked about long ago was a term that you, or not a term, but a saying that you came up with that I've kind of stolen and used, and it's how do you overcome any objection? And your answer always was, don't get the objection in the first place. Where did you come up with that?
You know, it's just something that popped into my mind. I like to consider myself a product specialist. I like to know everything that any of my products does do and anything that it does not do. And I want to convey that with full transparency to the customer in front of me. And just to know that you're adding value, you're being honest with the customer, and you're not telling them it's going to do more than it's actually going to do. You set the expectations up front. And so much of that is F&I in general, right? The whole idea of meeting the customer, the introduction is to set expectations. You're setting time expectations. You're letting them know what you're going to do. And you're just being honest and transparent with the customer all the way through. But when you're talking about products, you want to build value, because the customer is going to buy value, right? If they say they don't want it, why don't they want it? It's either it costs too much or they don't see the value in it. So if you build the value in it and you don't overshoot it, the customer's going to see that, and they see your people are people. They sense your sincerity and your trustworthiness and your honesty. And I think that if you pick out a few things of each of your products to build the value, then you're not going to get that objection. And if you do, then it's really easy to overcome.
You said so many things that lead me down different rabbit holes to talk about, but to try and keep us on track, the one thing that you said in the beginning there was it's that this is really that first step. You know, if you don't take that first step in that, you like to call it the meet and greet, most of us would refer it to the customer interview, but if you don't take that first step to get to know your customer and build that trust, you can talk about your products all day, but they're probably not going to see the value in you. And if they don't trust you or get to know you, they're not going to see the value in your products. And you're not going to know how to build the value for your customer if you haven't done that meet and greet to set up your products properly.
Absolutely. And, and the reason I call it a meet and greet is because I don't want finance managers, especially new finance managers, going out with a list of 10 questions and checking them off or filling in. How many miles a year do you drive, Mr. Customer? Would you bring your car here if if we made it, if you saw a discount in the pricing, or those days are gone. You want to have a conversation. So the idea of the meet and greet is let them know who you are, what you're going to be doing, how long it's going to take, and you're setting expectations. Find out the most important things, I think, in the meet and greet is to set the right expectations, and then to find out just a few things about the customer. Is this your correct address? Is this the correct payment that you're expecting on the car. You want that stuff to happen out at the desk, at the sales desk. So if there's something wrong, you could fix it. But you don't want to sit down, in my opinion, and some people do, but in my opinion, you don't want to sit down and rattle through 10 to 15 questions in an interview. You know, you want to establish some kind of rapport, and then get them into your office as soon as you can.
So that's really important, you know, that, and I've stolen this from other people as well, but the best interview that you can do is one that the customer doesn't even know is happening. It's just
Correct.
getting to know the person, building some rapport. And, you know, the first objection you're going to get is if you don't have any rapport, that customer is just not even going to let you present. And, you know, so I used to have a
Right.
lot of finance managers that would get the Heisman at the first side of a menu. And I always go back
Yep.
to, what was your interview like? Did you talk to the customer? Did you get to know them? Because it's really easy for me to shut you down if I don't know anything about you. But if I know that, hey, this isn't just a finance manager, this is David who lives in Oakland, who's a foodie, who loves to ride his motorcycle, I can't just shut you down. And that doesn't mean I'm going to buy something from you right away, but if I know a little bit about you and I feel like you know a little bit about me, at least I'm going to listen to you.
Right, common respect, right? So, you know, and things have changed a little bit now. It's a little bit harder because a lot of finance managers now in the office, they'll have a plexiglass screen up in front of them, which is a little bit awkward. But you know, you got to break down that wall. And how are you going to do it? Just by being yourself. You know, I always tell people it's almost more important that they know who you are than you know who they are, right? So because you're trying to sell them, and you need to know what their needs are, to build rapport, but they also need to know that you're a human. You know, they almost, once you find out that Joe Romero lives on a farm, has chickens, getting goats, and likes to drive a tractor instead of work, then
I still work.
then uh, um, then you're like, oh, this guy's kind of interesting. He's got some personality to him, right? You're not just there pushing paper, trying to get people to buy product that is only lining his or her pockets. You know, you want to let people know. And instead of having a lot of sales tools and brochures in your office or whatever, personalize your office. Have a picture of your tractor, have a picture of my motorcycle on there. Let people know what your interests are. So
No, I agree. It's, you know, there's value to whether we're going to call it an interview or a meet and greet. There's value to gathering the information, but because you do want to be able to personalize your products to what the customer's needs are. My opinion's the wrong way is to go out there and just have a list of questions that you need to answer, because I can figure out how many miles you drive and how long you're going to keep the car by asking you the questions, but that doesn't tell me anything about the customer. It hasn't built any rapport. And so we've got to kind of shift our way of thinking. There are ways of gathering that information. Again, the best interview is one the customer doesn't know is happening. If I go out and start asking questions, they know it's happening. But if we're having a conversation and I kind of figure a little bit about them, that's a better way of approaching it.
correct. And then, and going back to what you said, you know, is not getting the objection in the first place. Objections are good, right? That's a buying signal. Objections, you know, let you hone in to what they want. But if you don't get the objection in the first place, it just makes your job easier. I'm not saying that you're always going to, you know, get, oh, I'll take the preferred package, you know, and high five the customer. But minimize the objections is all I'm saying. Is not getting it in the first place, is just minimizing it. And the way you do that is by building value in your product and knowing your product inside and out.
Well, that's a huge part of it. But, you know, not getting the objection in the first place is presenting the right product also to the customer. If someone comes in and they're a 20,000 mile a year driver, and we present them a 10-year, 100,000 mile service contract, you're going to get what I always call the hidden objection. I'm going to say no because I know I'm never going to get to the 10 years. There's no value in that for me. Um,
Absolutely.
But if I'm on a 2-year lease and I present products that don't align with my ownership habits, the first step of that meet and greet or the interview, however you want to define it, is to build that rapport and be able to present the products that are going to be valued and needed by the customer, so that they will say yes on the first try more often. There is no magic bullet. No one's going to say yes. And you're right. Objections are good because that shows they have some interest in it and you have the ability to overcome those. But you've got to present the right products that fit the customer's needs.
Correct. And you need to present it in the right light, right? You don't need to necessarily ask a customer, how long are you going to keep your car? How many miles a year do you drive? There's other ways of finding that out, right? If especially with Subaru customers, we get a lot of 3, 4, 5 time customers, and the average person keeps their car about 6 years. Driving habits tend to be going longer. But if there's a trade-in or the typical the tried and true ways of telling how a customer drives their car, and you could point that out when presenting to a customer. Oh, I saw on your trade-in that you had it for X amount of years and you drove X amount of miles. Do you see that changing? Because and then base your presentation off of their driving habits.
Yeah, we've definitely fallen into the habit in the industry of being way too regimented, and it's all about the customer, and we've got to be more customer centric. Another thing that you said at the very beginning is you like to consider yourself a product specialist and know the ins and outs of all of your products. And I've been telling my finance guys in the field that they need to be product knowledge experts,
Right.
because when that objection does come up, they haven't bought on the first try, but they have some interest and they have a question or they have an objection. You need to be able to answer those questions quickly, honestly, without having to say, hold on, let me go to a book, let me look it up online.
Right.
If you have the answers quickly and correctly and confidently, those customers, the confidence that you portray on your products comes across to them, and they tend to buy more.
And that's the key word right there, is confidence, right? You need to be confident in your product, what it does and what it doesn't do. And I put a Friday email out a couple of years ago, and the title of it was Confidence is Sexy. And just have confidence in who you are and what you're doing. You can't be fumbling around, because if somebody looks like they're not sure of if they should buy the product, if I'm not sure you should buy the product, how are they going to be sure you should buy the product? So read all the contracts, front and back, every single word. That was my first week before I even typed a deal. Is I learned how to package deals, and I needed to read the contracts both front and back. And too many times people don't do that. And so they don't know. And look, at you and I are resources for our finance managers, and our phones are on 24/7 a day. And I want to take calls, but you know, I've been doing this. I've been in the Subaru world now for almost 10 years, both on the F&I side, or in a retailer, and now in this role. So I still don't know everything about Subaru products, but I know probably 98% about it. And I have a resource to call if I don't know something. So that's where I want. But I want my finance managers to know the product inside and out. And then they're going to be able to project with confidence that the customer feels like, wow, he's really sure of this product, and you're going to sell more product that way. I've sat in deals with guys that are like, yeah, you might want to think about this. It kind of, it might help you if down the road, but it's up to you. It's like, you don't be wishy-washy, be confident, be assertive. You don't have to be cocky. You don't have to be a jerk about it, but be confident, know what it's going to do for the customer, and believe in your products and be able to present them with confidence.
No, that is absolutely key. And I tell the new guys, I said, it's okay to be new. You're not going to know everything
Right.
right away. It's okay to be new. It's okay to
I was
have
new
to
for
ask
2
questions.
years.
But once you've been in there, and if you truly want to do this job for a long term and be the best, the confidence and product knowledge is key. When someone asks me a question, I want to be able to know that I can answer it and answer it accurately and not have to, like you said, be wishy-washy. I think it does this. I'm not sure. Someone calls me and asks a question, I want to be able to answer it. Same thing in finance. If they ask me, hey, what does wear and tear mean? Hey, this is what it is and this is what it does. I can answer it right away and know. And that confidence comes across. It's not a selling tool. I mean, it's a selling tool, but it's to the customer. It's not like you're being selling. You're answering their question. That confidence is contagious, and they buy more products.
Absolutely, 100% agree.
So, David, we've talked about a number of things, but let's just kind of recap how this can help the finance manager in the field. We want to make sure that everyone is doing some sort of a meet and greet customer interview or building some rapport with the customer. And secondly, you got to make sure you're a product knowledge expert, or in your case, product specialist. But you got to know everything about your product. Doing that meet and greet kind of helps you eliminate some of those first objections and what I like to call the hidden objection. But being the product knowledge expert is the confidence you need to get those guys that are on the fence, that are interested, and your confidence will come across and sell them. You have anything to add to that?
Well, and then also being transparent. I mean, and that's all part of it, right? In the meet and greet, you're setting expectations. You're letting them know, okay, I'm going to disappear for 5 minutes and go prepare your paperwork. Come back, make sure it's not 15 minutes, right? So you got to set realistic expectations for yourself. The whole process is going to take between 30 and 40 minutes. If it goes longer because they're talking and asking a lot of questions or decide they want to read the contract, then that's on them and it's okay. But you want to set realistic expectations up front in the meet and greet, aside from setting rapport, which is great. And then, the product knowledge, confidence in that is huge. If you get a customer, aside from a paralegal or an attorney, that wants to read your contract, then you are not the product knowledge specialist, because you're not presenting it with confidence. So they're like, maybe I need to read this and read the fine print. And that's a blanket statement, and blanket statements are bad, but you want to minimize that as much as possible. And having confidence in yourself and your product will eliminate a lot of the questions out there.
David, we could go on for hours on this, because you lead me to another thing. If you do get that person that wants to read the contract that doesn't understand what the contract says, but you know your contract front and back, and you can pull the contract out and say, here's where it says it in paragraph 7 right here on the back. This is what it means. Or if someone's asking a question, I use wear and tear a lot because people ask a lot of questions, but if someone asks a question about wear and tear, and I can go right to Subaru.com/added security and say, here's what wear and tear is. It says a part is not operating the way it was designed to when it was originally manufactured, it's going to be repaired. And go down to the definitions of wear and tear, where it says that wear and tear is when a part is not broken, but just failing to operate as it was designed to. And I can show these customers exactly where these things that I'm telling them come up. Those are
Yep.
the things that sell the product. So whether it's on the contract or you can go right to the website, when someone has those questions or wants to read it, and I can say, not a problem, let me show you exactly where it is. Those are the things that sell products, because you knew where to go.
Yep, 100%. And that's both confidence and knowing your product. So that could be a next week's session or a future week session.
Yeah, you know what? I hope that we do this more. I mean, I really do.
Absolutely.
I think that the territories can do this. I would venture to say it's kind of went a little bit longer than we wanted, and maybe feels a little bit more like a podcast session. But I'm hoping that our teams will watch this and take the message away that don't shortcut your steps. Do your meet and greet or your customer interview, whatever iteration of it that you have, but make sure that it's something that builds rapport, and know your products, because you're going to sell more when you're a product knowledge expert. So thank you so much
Great.
for being a part of this today.
Good time, Joe.
And I'm glad that you said you want to do it again, because I'm going to set it up and we're going to do more of these. Guys, it's
Good.
the weekend.
Looking forward to it.
We're coming to the end of middle to the end of June. Have a great weekend, and we will talk to you again next week.